Tell it as it is, with your hosts, Leon George and John Galman.
Real talk, real issues.
Hello, welcome to CCB Radio, the internet radio station with a difference. Well, I want to say very happy new year to all of our listeners around the globe at this time. Welcome to CCB Radio. Thank you very much for joining us. At this time, we are here for our first program for 2013. I trust that you would have a good season, and all of you listeners, beautiful listeners, are back with us, faithful ones, and so on. And so tonight, it's, as usual, with me, it's my guest, John Kelman out of Barbados, and we hope to be joined by a guest later on tonight, which we had on our last program. So he's probably going to be joining us a bit later. Well, tonight what we're going to do, take a walk down memory lane. We're going to look back at some of the programs we would have done in 2012, and some we may have to repeat, because since we have dealt with a number of these issues, I can tell you a lot of development has taken, a lot of new developments has taken place, and more recently is the one in the Church of England, where they are now allowing people in same-sex relationships to become bishops. And we have dealt with the church, whether the church was losing its moral authority, its moral integrity. We have dealt with that. Certainly, we have dealt also with in terms of relationships between people with a sort of age difference, between like 10 or 20 years difference. And I was listening to the radio today, and I heard a very interesting news where a 90-year-old Saudi man married a 15-year-old girl, and it's causing outrage. So these are some of the topics probably we can revisit in 2013. But before I go on, let me say hello to my co-host tonight, who's John out of Barbados. John, how are you doing tonight?
Not bad at all, George. And having come through the turbulence at some point of Christmas, everybody in the hustle and bustle, I can say that we landed on Safe Harbor, and here I am, ready and willing to go again now in the year 2013.
Oh, what is it? You said turbulence. I heard us certainly, wanting to know how Christmas became with turbulent, because I just look back at looking back at the season and see how people would have celebrated in different ways and such. We here in Trinidad, we had some mixed weather patterns, but nevertheless, that never stopped the what you would call mass celebration of people. I was out in the supermarket on Christmas Eve, and even the day before Christmas Eve, and I can tell you that things was really bustling with excitement. One particular grocery, they had to shut the door, and as usual, this is not the first time I come across something like this, a supermarket, where they have to shut the door and allow a certain amount inside, and then after you when you let out some, you have more comes in. And I said all of this because throughout the Christmas you hear people say that they don't have money to spend and they're going to be taking it easy. And I believe that Trinidadians likes the last minute hustle and bustle. There is some excitement in getting things the rush, in rushing to get things at the last minute. Some people will be painting at Christmas Eve night. In fact, Christmas morning they'll be still painting and putting up curtains and doing the final bakings and stuff. And I looked at this and I said, maybe there is some kind of excitement in this, that we love the the hustle and the bustle, the last minute hustle and bustle, for the amount of people you see getting caught up in it. And people who will hear them say that they don't want to get caught up in this last minute hustle and bustle. They do, but nevertheless, I think my Christmas was quite good. My whole season was quite good. I hope the same for you, John. Tell me, so how would you have spent your holiday?
Well, not bad. I was sort of cool, but that doesn't mean because I was cool and I took things pace after pace that there were not others who were caught up in what I describe as a turbulence. I mean, you talk about people in the supermarket and you had to close this thing because of the congestion and the hustle and bustle. Mm-hmm. All of that is what I refer to as turbulence. I mean, and there are certain parts of Trinidad, I'm sure that you got the ravages of the weather, and then there's some other places that are quite cool. So I was able to live through the storm and still be cool. But there were some people, I'm sure, that they were hustling and bustling, and it was one big rush. That is the sort of thing that occurred in some places. So that's what I refer to as the stormy conditions of the Christmas. There would have been the peaceful side where people regarded the worship and church service and whatnot, but there's some who were so taken up that when the Christmas passed, they were not aware. It was only on Boxing Day that they woke from maybe a drunken stupor and then tell you, well, oh, we had a wonderful Christmas.
I know I was talking about the excitement earlier on, and I come to believe that the excitement is something traditional in our psyche. It's something cultural now. It's that some people, if they don't have that rush, that last minute rush to get the final curtains or tablecloths, mats, painting. You have people painting at, like I said, at Christmas Eve into Christmas morning. You have people still doing their baking. And I've come to believe that some people, if they don't have this kind of excitement in their life for Christmas, Christmas is not received. Because they will actually sit down and wait and see time pass, and then just feel like they can do everything within 24 hours. And I was wondering if that's part of the way they like to celebrate their Christmas, because if they probably paint too early or polish the floor too early, I think they might say, or even put away their house, I think probably they might say by the time Christmas it becomes, common, it's come to normal, it's not going to look new, or it's not going to be excited. People must see my new curtain only for the first time at Christmas, or see the house in a different color at Christmas time, not a month before or so, because it's still want that smell of paint, varnish, and all of that. So I was thinking if people deliberately wait for the last minute to do these things so that they can really feel part of the excitement of Christmas. It brings in what you might call the Christmas feeling. If they do it too early, it might not be there. I just looked at how people do things, and I will suggest that's the only conclusion that I could have come to.
I believe that it is cultural. It becomes automatic. I don't think that they deliberately wait, but I think that is the sort of momentum from way up early December, late November. People begin to get concerned. I mean, the waters begin to warm up. But then by mid-December, it's approaching the boil. And in the latter part of December, it is at boiling point, and the whole thing goes, in other words, I mean, like in the words of the calypso done by our plastic bag here, something's happening.
Right.
You know, something must seem to be happening for you to get into the groove, into the mood. So you don't remain just relaxing. It is the hustle and bustle, the go get it excitement. People are so excited. They meet enemies and say, Happy Christmas. Of course not mean them sometimes. But you see, this hustle and bustle is all part of it. And that gives glamour to it, you know. Something's happening. And if it is not like that, then nothing is happening. So I don't think that they deliberately wait. I think it is a gradual crescendo till you reach the high octave, and then lungs are bursting with the sound. But you start with a little breathing, and then you make a sound, and the sound increases until there's the great din, the big hurrah, the thunderous explosion. I think that's the way it goes.
Before we go further, I wanted to do a little review of some of the topics we would have touched on for 2012. But you know, you said there's something there that remind me of a particular situation. While we were all excited and looking forward for the holidays and to enjoy it and to have a good time, I went to visit my niece to collect some stuff. That was Christmas Eve late, and while she had the house upside down, cleaning up and such, and also prepared for her sister, who was coming in the same night, back in Trinidad for like over 10 or 12 years. She was excited and everything about that. Her husband's grandmother, not his biological grandmother, not blood, but a lady who adopted him and he grew up with, she was in her 90s. She was around 96 years old. She was not doing very well. Unfortunately, she passed away Christmas Day, and the enthusiasm that my niece had, the joy, the excitement, he didn't have the same. He was like out of it, because this is somebody who was there to him, and he was like, so for him, Christmas was not what it would have been in past years. Because to lose a loved one is really in itself it was not an easy thing for him to deal with. And there are many people like individuals who have these memories around Christmas time. They will have had what you might call unfortunate incidents around Christmas time, and so on. So while we were there celebrating, and so we had situations like these where people would have, their Christmas would have been far different to the way we celebrated. Hello? Yeah. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, yeah. I'm here.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, now you're going down that line. Christmas is a time of joy and getting together with friends. But there's certain things in our lives that could be a bad landmark, which can mar the happiness that is usually associated with the Christmas feeling. This Christmas, there is a family in Barbados. I know the family very well. We are very good friends. And they had a triple tragedy. Those 3 people are still to be buried. They're not yet buried. The funeral has not yet come off.
When does this happen? When does this happen?
During the Christmas week, where a young girl of about 20 and her niece and her daughter, a baby boy, that is, a baby boy, not a daughter, her baby boy, were in a car with other relatives, and the car was involved in a bad accident, and the three of them died on the spot. The driver and one of the other relatives in the car were thrown out, and fortunately, they survived, those two. But the other three, a girl of 17, one of 20, and a baby of 15 months to the 20-year-old, those three perished on the spot. Well, George, you would understand that as of now, any Christmas, the accumulative effect of that grief and bereavement would stand like a pillar, and they could not see Christmas as this moment of joy and happiness that other people would. And it is quite understandable. So when people say to you, Merry Christmas, Happy Christmas, they mean well, but could you have a Merry Christmas when in Christmas week you lost 3 relatives on the spot in a fatal vehicular accident? You couldn't.
No, you couldn't. And, what you mentioned, the situation that you just mentioned, there are lots of similar situations like that. I could tell you, in Trinidad here, about 3 years ago, there was this young guy get a car for his birthday. But it was in November though, and Christmas Day he went out for a drive, take a friend with him, and he didn't return. And listening to his appearance reading the article in the papers, and they talk about how Christmas could never be the same, because Christmas will only bring back that memory. It happened on Christmas. The tragic death of my son, or my father, my mother, my brother. This is what Christmas means to them. Pain, suffering, and grief. Every time Christmas come up, they are going to remember the loss of their son. That fateful time, that fateful day when he went out just for a drive, taking a friend with him. And we often celebrate so much that these are some of the things that we overlook. There are many people who are grieving and hurting for different reasons around Christmas time. And, this is what Christmas itself is about. It's about sharing and trying to understand what your brother or sister is going through, about human. Selfless attitude towards other people's feelings around Christmas time. I think Christmas, the meaning of Christmas, will definitely have more value than it really has. We wouldn't take a lot of things that we take for granted. Will not take it for granted anymore. And the kind of good time that we have in drunkenness and rivalry around Christmas time is going to be less. And Christmas might have certainly has its true meaning if you take time to think about others who will not be as fortunate as us. Every time Christmas comes around, all they have is a bad memory. Bring back speed, bring back pain and hurt. And I wonder if you can share, if it's really beloved of us to go and visit such a person around Christmas time. So you can share their grief, try to understand what they're going through. Just forget about ourselves for a few moments. Because they can't set up in a table or a lunch table at Christmas, because everything they can put away the house or paint, not that they can't do it, but every time they try to do something like that, they engage in some activity that is resemble Christmas. All they do is brings up bad memories. They go to the stores, the supermarket, they hear the Christmas carols playing, they see the toys are out. They're going to remember that the unfortunate incident that they would have had that Christmas morning, that Christmas Eve night, during the Christmas season. There's no way they could ever celebrate Christmas like the way we do, or look forward to it. They will not look forward to Christmas because the pain and hurt and the memories that it's going to bring up, they wouldn't want to even hear about Christmas.
This is true. I mean, and it is not only the bereavement of having lost a friend in death. It is anything that brings about depression and bereavement. You might have lost your house in a house fire at the time. You might have been laid off from work. I mean, and you were without a job right up to Christmas. And the Christmas week, you know that when you leave there that you have no more job, and that's that. You look forward, you look to the new year, not like going back to work, but you had a job, you no longer have a job. These things will stand out, which will interfere with the merriment which you would have made had there been no other interference and all was smooth running. But it is the finger that hurts that cause you to remember that finger as opposed to the other nine. You know, you live every day with your 10 fingers, your 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, and you just take it for granted. I mean, they're there, so what? But if one has been damaged, one is hurt, and one is lame, you remember that one. Every morning you get up and probably have to dress a wound on that one. You don't remember the others, but you remember that one. So that one stands out in your memory like a sore thumb, the proverbial sore thumb. When these things happen in our lives, they almost obliterate all the other goodies and niceties and pleasantries that life holds. And these things stand up in your mind, and it is really Herculean to have them erased. You can erase them. They're there. Christmas does not mean now, oh, we go in and celebrate the birth of the young child and that sort of thing, those of us in this side of Christendom. But that is the day, or that is the season when I lost my mother, my father, my very good friend, overrun by some motor vehicle, and he died. He was painting the house for Christmas. He fell and broke his neck or back or something and died. Those things will stand out. So, happy Christmas is sometimes a selfish or meaningless phrase. It all depends on who is saying it to whom.
Yeah, but and it was interesting because I said to John, happy Christmas to you, but are you really happy? You just lost 3 members of your family. Or it could be 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, but every time Christmas comes up,
it depends on your definition of happiness.
Yes, the pain and hurt comes up because
contentment is not necessarily happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Very much like being alone is not always loneliness.
Loneliness. That's correct.
Yeah.
And you can be, of course, you can be in the whole process and still be lonely. And of course, and you could be laughing, but that means you could be sad inside.
I know of a situation where I was away from home, 4,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean, and I was there in Wales at the university there, where they had about 3,000 students on campus. And I was one of the most lonely people in the world among 3,000 other people. I was lonely.
But you believe,
but I was not alone.
Right, you weren't alone, right. You weren't alone, but you, as an individual, were lonely. Yeah. But you believe there's any bright cloud in these unfortunate circumstances?
Say that again, if I believe.
Do you believe there's any speck of a bright cloud in these unfortunate circumstances?
Unfortunate situation, I mean, to be lonely? Huh?
No, lonely is one. You can say yes, lonely. But I'm talking in terms of having a tragedy in your life around Christmas time. Like the loss of a home, when the home was burned down, the loss of a father, mother, brother, sister, loss of a loved one, someone close to you.
Yeah.
Or your father losing his job. Just around Christmas time when this is the time when you're supposed to be working overtime and getting money to buy all the Christmas, put in before the pie and buy the extra gift to come home and say, I've been fired. But the job is closed down. That Christmas, you were shattered.
I see that.
So I want to ask you, is there any, okay, put it this way then, is there any lessons that we can learn from situations like these? Is there any positive things to come up from these unfortunate circumstances?
The only thing I can see there that you would learn is that regardless of the time of the year, regardless of where you are beset by problems. And your only consolation is that whatever the problem is, it could have been worse. But I see nothing spectacular about a bereavement at Christmas time, one at Whitsuntide, one at Easter. I see nothing peculiar about that. I see it as being purely coincidental that you met with a misfortune at a time when you would not have wanted it to be. As a matter of fact, you don't want misfortune at all, but this is the time when it would be like the proverbial wet blanket. A blanket is expected to keep you warm. And when the blanket is wet, it does a lot more than if you were going outside and the street was wet. There isn't anything so out of the normal for the street to be wet. But when your blanket is wet, that makes it a whole lot of difference. Because a blanket is not associated, has no connotation with wetness and dampness, but rather with warmth. And when that happens, that the blanket is wet, it is far different from the street being wet. So I see it as being purely coincidental when these gross misfortunes take place at these particular times. But I see it as just being purely coincidental. I see no omen being bespoken because at Christmas time you had a bereavement. Not at all.
I think it's a situation like that. It's definitely going to remind us about how our lives could go. It could certainly teach us some lessons that there is nothing we must